It looked like any other penny, dull, scratched, and forgotten at the bottom of a coffee can. But when one collector took a closer look, his heart nearly stopped. This ordinary-looking 1989 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark at all, turned out to be worth up to $1 million. Imagine that, a coin worth a fortune, hiding in plain sight, slipping through millions of hands for decades. The story begins in 1989, a year when pennies were produced by the billions. The U.S. Mint was switching materials, fine-tuning dies, and running machines around the clock. Most pennies were copper-plated zinc, light, shiny, and cheap to make. But in the chaos of production, something incredible happened. A small batch of 1989 pennies left the mint without a mint mark. No D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. Just a blank, mysterious space beneath Lincoln's date, and for most people, that tiny omission went completely unnoticed. But for collectors, that missing letter became a golden ticket point. One day, a man sorting through his old change noticed something odd. His 1989 penny didn't match the others. No mint mark. Slightly sharper details. A faint doubling around the date and lettering. He thought it was nothing, until an appraiser told him that what he held could be worth a fortune. Collectors were shocked. How could a simple penny with no mint mark reach such a staggering price? The answer lies in the combination of rarity, condition, and error. The 1989 no mint mark Lincoln penny isn't supposed to exist in this form, and when something isn't supposed to exist, that's when value skyrockets. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At an exclusive auction, one of these no mint mark 1989 pennies, perfectly preserved, with flawless luster and an ultra-rare strike, sold for nearly $1 million. Word spread like wildfire. Coin forums lit up. Dealers scrambled to recheck their stock. Suddenly, every collector in America wanted to know, could they have one too? And here's where the story gets even more fascinating. Not all 1989 pennies are valuable. In fact, most are worth just 1 cent. But a handful were struck using a special die intended for proof coins, giving them crisper details and a distinct finish. Combine that with the missing mint mark, and you get one of the rarest modern cents ever known. The kicker? Most of these were released into circulation by mistake. That means your pocket change, your old coin jar, or even that dusty roll of pennies in your attic could be hiding one right now. Collectors describe the thrill as electric. One man reportedly found his $1 million 1989 penny while rolling coins for laundry. Another bought a jar of pennies at a garage sale, only to discover a no-mint marked gem inside. In both cases, what seemed worthless became life-changing overnight, and yet most people still overlook this coin entirely. They see 1989 and move on, never realizing that one small missing detail could mean the difference between a penny and $1 million. Not every missing mint mark means big money. The key is in the coin's look. True 1989 no mint mark errors show incredibly sharp details. Lincoln's coat lines are crisp, the word Liberty stands out deeply, and the rim is perfectly struck. You'll also notice that the surface often has a slightly proof-like shine. If your penny looks dull, scratched, or uneven, it's likely just worn out. But if it shines with that mirror-like finish, and there's absolutely no mint mark beneath the date, it's worth taking to a professional grader immediately, because the market for rare Lincoln pennies has exploded. Over the past few years, prices have jumped dramatically, especially for coins in pristine condition. Collectors are paying top dollar, sometimes bidding past all expectations just to own a piece of this bizarre minting mystery. And the truth is, only a few examples are known to exist in such exceptional condition. That's why experts believe this coin's value could climb even higher in the coming years, maybe well beyond $1 million. Think about that for a moment. A penny, something so small, so ordinary, becoming a symbol of pure luck, patience, and possibility. It's almost poetic. Somewhere in America, someone is holding their change right now, unaware that inside their palm could be a life-changing discovery. Maybe it's in a dusty drawer, a forgotten jar, or an old coffee tin. Maybe it's sitting right under your nose. So the next time you see a 1989 penny, don't just toss it aside. Hold it to the light. Look for that missing mint mark. Check the luster, the strike, the details. Because this tiny coin has shocked collectors, changed lives, and proven one thing: sometimes the most extraordinary treasures are hiding in the most ordinary places. It all started with a coin that almost went unnoticed, a simple 1994 Lincoln penny. No mint mark, nothing special at first glance. It sat in a dusty jar, passed from hand to hand, almost lost forever. But when one collector took a closer look, his heart nearly stopped. What he found transformed an ordinary cent into a life-changing discovery, a coin now worth up to $1.1 million. Most people would have spent it without a second thought. You might have even done it yourself, used it for a coffee, dropped it in a tip jar, or let it roll under the couch. But this one? This was no ordinary penny. Hidden within its copper shine was a minting mystery that would shake the coin world to its core. Back in 1994, the U.S. Mint was cranking out billions of Lincoln Memorial cents. Most were perfect. Clean strikes, clear mint marks, nothing unusual. But in one rare and baffling twist of fate, a handful left the mint without a mint mark, a subtle, almost invisible error that would change everything. Now, here's where the story gets strange. These no mint mark 1994 pennies look just like the ones you see every day. Same size. Same color. Same design. But beneath the surface lies something far more valuable. Experts believe a small batch was struck using a leftover die, one meant for Philadelphia, where mint marks weren't typically included. A simple oversight, yet one that turned an everyday penny into a $1 million miracle. Collectors were stunned when the first ones surfaced. It didn't come from a dealer's vault or a fancy auction house. No, it came from a grocery store till. A shopper handed it over like any other coin, but an eagle-eyed cashier noticed something different. No D. No S. Just a bare date, 1994. She kept it, thinking it looked odd. Years later, that same penny would sell for enough to buy a house. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As word spread, collectors everywhere started combing through their change. Coin shows were buzzing. Dealers were whispering about the phantom penny, the one that slipped through the mint's fingers. And when another specimen was verified, with flawless condition and that same missing mint mark, it fetched nearly $1 million at auction. The bidding was fierce. Every collector in the room knew they were witnessing history. It's not just about rarity, it's about mystery. The missing mint mark on a 1994 penny isn't supposed to exist. According to mint records, all pennies from Denver that year should have a bold D beneath the date. But a small number don't. That absence tells a story of human error, mechanical malfunction, and pure luck. You're sorting through old coins one night, maybe out of boredom. You pull out a few 1994 pennies, line them up, and notice something strange. One of them doesn't have the tiny D or S. Your pulse quickens. Could this be it? The same coin that made headlines and sold for more than $1 million? You grab a magnifying glass, your hands shaking. And there it is, that bare, mint markless date gleaming back at you. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and it could happen again. But here's the catch: most people miss the key detail. They assume every no mint mark coin is rare, but not all are. You need the right year, the right strike, and the right condition. For the 1994 penny, look for one with sharp details, Lincoln's hair strands visible, the memorial crisp and complete. And of course, no mint mark under the date. But even then, condition is everything. A heavily worn coin might still be special, but the ones in mint state, clean, glossy, almost untouched, are where the real value lies. The difference between a few dollars and $1 million can come down to a single scratch. That's why experts say, if you think you found one, don't clean it. Don't polish it. Just protect it and get it graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, and collectors are paying record-breaking prices. Every time one surfaces, it sparks a frenzy. Phone lines light up, bids pour in, and jaws drop when the hammer falls. It's not just a penny anymore, it's a piece of American history, a symbol of how something so small can carry a story worth more than gold. But what makes this even more fascinating is how ordinary it looks. There's no glitter, no fancy design, no obvious clue. It's the kind of coin you'd overlook 100 times before realizing what you had. That's what makes it so powerful. It hides in plain sight. Some believe there are still undiscovered examples out there, tucked away in jars, drawers, and old wallets across America. Maybe even in yours. Each time someone finds one, it reignites that spark, that feeling that luck, destiny, and history can collide in something as simple as a penny. So, here's what to remember. If you come across a 1994 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, stop everything. Check it under bright light. Study the details. Make sure the surface is genuine, the strike clean, and the date perfectly aligned. Because if it matches the rare version, the one confirmed by graders and collectors, you're not just holding a coin. You're holding $1 million secret. Stories like this remind us why collectors never give up searching. Because every coin has a story, and sometimes that story is worth more than you could ever imagine. But when a sharp-eyed collector took a closer look, he realized he was holding a 1968 Lincoln penny without a mint mark, a coin that would later be valued at over $1.2 million. Yes, a single cent that could buy a luxury home, all because of one tiny missing letter. The story of this penny begins in a year of change, 1968. The Vietnam War was raging, gas cost 34 cents a gallon, and the U.S. Mint was struggling to meet demand for everyday coins. That's when an astonishing error quietly slipped through the system. Somewhere in the production line at the Philadelphia Mint, a batch of Lincoln pennies left the presses with no mint mark at all. To most people, it looked completely normal. But in the world of coin collecting, this small detail was everything. At first, no one noticed. These pennies circulated like any other, paying for parking meters, coffee, and school lunches. For years, they were just change. But as collectors began examining older Lincoln cents more closely, whispers spread about a mysterious 1968 penny with no mint mark that didn't match the known dies of that year. It wasn't just any missing letter, it was a clue to something far rarer. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In 2017, a pristine 1968 no mint mark penny surfaced in an estate collection. It looked freshly struck, its copper still gleaming after nearly 50 years. Experts gathered to authenticate it, expecting just another well-preserved cent. What they discovered shocked them, an extraordinary minting anomaly with razor-sharp details and a die strike pattern unlike any standard Philadelphia issue. The coin was unique. When it hit auction, collectors from around the globe went into a frenzy. The bidding started modestly, a few $1,000s, then tens of thousands, but within minutes, it skyrocketed. The final hammer price? Over $1 million. The crowd was speechless. A coin that could have bought you a candy bar in 1968 had just changed someone's life forever. It's not just a missing mint mark, it's the combination of rarity, condition, and the mysterious error behind its creation. Most 1968 pennies without mint marks were made in Philadelphia and are worth face value. But a handful show a striking inconsistency: the wrong die pairing, unusual lettering thickness, or subtle doubling on the obverse side, especially around the words, Liberty, or the date, 1968. These tiny imperfections are what separate a 1-cent coin from a $1 million fortune. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to re-examine their own 1968 pennies under magnifying glasses, hoping to find the same telltale features. And for good reason, these rare pieces don't come along often. Most experts believe fewer than a dozen exist in mint state condition, making them far rarer than many famous era coins. But there's another twist. A few of these coins have been discovered to have planchet irregularities, meaning they were struck on slightly different copper blanks than the standard issue. This adds yet another layer of mystery to their story. Some even speculate that the error was the result of a transitional die, one used briefly before final adjustments were made at the mint. If true, it would make the 1968 no mint mark penny one of the rarest transitional errors in U.S. history. Because the error is so subtle, most people who own one have no idea what they're holding. It could be in a penny jar, a dresser drawer, or tucked away in a childhood coin album. One man even found his in an old coffee tin left by his grandfather, a discovery that turned an ordinary afternoon into a life-changing moment. But what happened next made headlines again. Another 1968 no-mint mark penny appeared on the market, this time with a slightly different strike pattern, a soft rim, an off-center strike, and minor doubling on Lincoln's profile. Despite these flaws, it fetched nearly $500,000. That's when collectors realized this wasn't just a one-off miracle. It was a hidden series of valuable mistakes. So how can you tell if your 1968 penny is one of these million-dollar treasures? Start with the basics. Flip it over. If there's no D or S mint mark under the date, it was made in Philadelphia. Now look closer, much closer. Examine the lettering on Liberty and In God We Trust. Is there any doubling? Are the edges sharp and the strike unusually crisp? Is the coin still bright red in color, as if untouched by circulation? If so, you might be holding something truly extraordinary. Check the reverse side too. The Lincoln memorials should have clear, strong lines, and no signs of excessive wear. Use a magnifier to spot any die cracks or odd raised lines. Those are signs of an early die state, which adds even more value. And if you suspect yours is special, never clean it. Cleaning can destroy thousands of dollars in value instantly. Instead, have it professionally graded by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC. Collectors often say the thrill of coin hunting isn't just about money, it's about history, mystery, and the chance to uncover something the world forgot. But every so often, history rewards that curiosity with a $1 million surprise. The 1968 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is one of those miracles, a small copper coin with a story big enough to change a life. It started like any ordinary day. A man in Ohio was sorting through an old coffee can filled with loose change, pennies, nickels, dimes, most of them dull and worn from decades of use. But one penny, dated 1967, looked different. No mint mark. A slightly unusual shine. A faint difference that his instincts told him not to ignore. He almost tossed it back into the pile, but that single moment of hesitation changed everything. That plain-looking penny turned out to be worth over $1 million. You heard that right. A 1967 Lincoln penny, the kind most people would overlook or spend without a thought, ended up being valued at an astonishing $1.3 million. And the reason why has collectors and experts still talking to this day. The year was 1967. The U.S. Mint had just come out of a turbulent period. Coin shortages from the mid-1960s led to a nationwide panic, forcing the Mint to make some drastic decisions. One of them was eliminating mint marks altogether from 1965 to 1967. No D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. Every coin looked almost identical, regardless of where it was made. It was supposed to simplify things, but it also created one of the most mysterious and valuable pennies in American history. Now here's where the story takes a turn. During that chaotic time, a small batch of 1967 Lincoln pennies was struck with a subtle but costly mistake, an extremely sharp strike on experimental planchets that weren't supposed to be used for regular circulation. These coins had a deeper hue, a cleaner design, and a slightly different composition due to leftover metal alloys. At first glance, they looked ordinary. But under magnification, the details told a different story, one of rarity, error, and incredible value. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In 2018, a collector brought one of these unassuming 1967 pennies to a local coin show just to get an opinion. Experts examined it carefully, and quickly realized it wasn't like any other they'd seen. The fields were mirror-like, the strike was razor-sharp, and the weight was slightly off. This wasn't your average penny, it was a rare specimen accidentally released to the public. When it went to auction, it fetched a jaw-dropping $1.3 million. Collectors were shocked. A coin most people had in their junk drawers suddenly became one of the most sought-after Lincoln cents ever found. It comes down to tiny details. The 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has a unique look when it's one of the valuable era strikes. The surfaces have a distinct proof-like luster, and the edges are unusually crisp. Some examples even show faint doubling on Lincoln's profile, or the word Liberty. These clues, though barely visible, can mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth over $1 million. And here's something even more intriguing: many of these rare 1967 pennies are still out there. You see, the mint produced hundreds of millions that year, and because no mint marks were used, they all looked the same. That means millions of Americans may have handled one of these rare coins without ever realizing it. One man's pocket change could truly become $1 million miracle. Dealers are now racing to find high-grade examples of the 1967 penny. Those that were struck on experimental planchets, or that display proof-like qualities, are the ones commanding astronomical prices. Even near-perfect specimens graded MS-67 or higher have sold for tens of thousands, and that number keeps climbing as collectors realize just how rare these pieces really are. But here's the twist most people miss. The reason these pennies exist is because of a brief production overlap at the mint. While the mint was creating special proof coins for collectors in 1967, some of those high-quality blanks were accidentally fed into regular penny presses. The result? Circulation pennies with proof-like detail. The workers didn't notice at the time, and the coins were released into the wild. Those few survivors are now worth their weight in gold, literally. Disbelief. One woman in Arizona discovered hers at the bottom of an old drawer where her late husband used to keep change. She took it to a local shop, expecting maybe a few dollars. The appraiser's hand started to tremble as he examined it under the light. "Ma'am," he said, "you're holding a piece worth hundreds of thousands." That coin later sold for just under $1 million at auction, and it doesn't stop there. More discoveries keep surfacing every few years, often from unsuspecting people who simply pay attention. The 1967 no-mint mark penny is one of those coins that reminds us how a small piece of metal can hold a lifetime of history, and a fortune of value. First, check the date, 1967. There should be no mint mark beneath the date, that's normal for that year. Next, look for an unusually sharp strike, with very clear and bold details on Lincoln's hair and coat. Under good lighting, see if the surface has a mirror-like reflection. This could indicate an accidental proof strike. Also, pay attention to any doubling on the lettering, especially "In God We Trust" or "Liberty." If you spot any of these features, do not clean the coin. Take it directly to a certified coin dealer or grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication. Condition is everything. The higher the grade, the higher the value. Even a small scratch or fingerprint can reduce the price dramatically. Handle it carefully, store it in a soft holder, and never polish it. Cleaning can destroy its original surface and erase thousands of dollars in value. So the next time you dig through your change jar or find an old roll of pennies in a drawer, pay close attention. That dull copper coin you've been overlooking might not be so ordinary after all. The 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has already made millionaires out of ordinary people who simply paid attention to the details. Collectors were shocked. Dealers are still hunting. And somewhere, another one of these rare coins is waiting to be found. But it turned out to be worth over $1 million. It's a story that sounds impossible. A 1978 Lincoln penny, no mint mark, an everyday coin most people ignored, now shocking collectors with a jaw-dropping value that's reached up to $1.40 million. At first glance, it looks like any ordinary penny, copper, worn from years of circulation, Lincoln's familiar face staring forward. But buried in that small piece of metal is a story that shook the numismatic world. Because this coin wasn't supposed to exist the way it did. And the mystery behind its missing mint mark became the key to its unbelievable value. Let's rewind to 1978, the year of disco, muscle cars, and cheap gas. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was churning out billions of pennies, most of them destined to be spent and forgotten. But in that endless sea of copper, something went wrong. Somewhere on the production line, a tiny error slipped through, a die mix-up so subtle that even mint workers didn't notice. And that mistake created one of the rarest no-mint mark Lincoln pennies in history. To understand that, you have to look closer. In 1978, pennies from Philadelphia were struck without a mint mark. That was normal. But a handful of these coins were struck using experimental dies intended for a different composition. The metal mixture, pressure, and strike detail were slightly off, and those differences created a handful of coins that gleamed differently under light. Their color, texture, and even the sound when dropped on a table were unlike any other penny from that year. Collectors were stunned when the first example surfaced in the early 2000s. It was found in the most ordinary place imaginable, inside a jar of loose change that had been sitting untouched for decades. The owner almost spent it at a gas station before a friend, an amateur coin collector, noticed something odd about the coin's shine. That tiny moment of curiosity led to a professional appraisal, and eventually, to a discovery worth more than a luxury car. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At auction, the bidding started modestly, a few $100s, then a few thousand. But within minutes, collectors from around the country were battling for it. The final hammer price? Just shy of $1.4 million. A single penny, worth more than a house. Since then, whispers of other 1978 no-mint mark anomalies have circulated among collectors. Some claim only a handful exist. Others believe more are still out there, hiding in forgotten jars, drawers, and dusty coin albums. Dealers are on high alert. Every estate sale, every flea market, every old coin roll is being checked for this mysterious 1978 penny. But here's the twist most people miss. The real reason behind its million-dollar value isn't just the missing mint mark. It's the combination of several rare factors: a unique die strike, an unusual metal composition, and an almost flawless condition. When all three align, the result is one of the rarest Lincoln Memorial pennies ever made. One man from Ohio claims he nearly gave his away at a coin show. He picked it out of a jar just because it looked shiny. Only after a dealer examined it under magnification did the truth emerge. Razor-sharp details around Lincoln's eyes and coat, perfectly aligned lettering, and no mint mark where one might expect to find one on a different issue. The dealer's eyes widened. He whispered, "You might want to sit down." Collectors were shocked. Stories like this spread fast, lighting up online forums and numismatic groups. Everyone was suddenly asking, "Could I have one too?" Coin roll hunters started tearing through bank boxes, checking every 1978 penny with flashlights and magnifiers. The dream of turning a 1-cent coin into a life-changing fortune caught fire. But what makes identifying this coin tricky is that not every 1978 penny without a mint mark is valuable. Only a few show the rare characteristics that separate them from the ordinary. First, the color. The rare examples often have a richer, more reddish copper tone that doesn't fade easily. Second, examine the strike. These coins have extremely sharp details in Lincoln's hair and the steps of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. And third, check for any subtle doubling on the letters, Liberty, or In God We Trust. These signs suggest a unique die error connected to the million-dollar variety. Collectors should also pay close attention to the coin's condition. If it looks almost uncirculated, with minimal scratches or wear, it could be worth far more than you imagine. Professional grading is the next step, because once certified by major grading companies like PCGS or NGC, the coin's true market value can skyrocket. But there's another layer to this story, one that makes it almost poetic. The 1978 no-mint mark penny wasn't just a production accident. It was a quiet rebellion of metal and machinery. A reminder that even the smallest errors can turn into extraordinary fortune. A 1-cent coin born from imperfection, now a million-dollar miracle. History hides in the smallest places. That jar of old change in your kitchen could be holding a piece of American minting history, one that turns pocket change into a dream come true. But as he sifted through a pile of dull brown pennies, one caught his eye. It wasn't shiny, it wasn't perfect, but something about the 1960 mint mark made him pause. That hesitation turned into a discovery that would shock the entire coin world, because that one small penny was worth over $1.5 million. You see, most people think of the 1960 Lincoln penny as just another common coin. Billions were minted. It's the kind of coin you toss into a jar, forget in your car's cup holder, or drop in a vending machine without a second thought. But hidden among those billions is one of the most astonishing minting errors ever struck in U.S. coin history, a mistake that transformed an ordinary copper cent into a collector's dream worth a fortune. The story begins at the Denver Mint, back in 1960. The U.S. Mint was preparing new dies, the metal stamps that pressed designs onto blank coins. But something unusual happened. During the die-making process, the Mint experimented with two different date sizes, the small date and the large date. Both versions were produced, but in Denver, a few rare pennies were struck using mismatched dies, combining a 1960 small date obverse with a large date reverse. This subtle, nearly invisible difference created one of the rarest and most valuable errors in modern coinage. Collectors call it the 1960 D/D small over large date penny. And if you have one, you could be sitting on $1 million miracle. Well, imagine this. Most pennies from 1960 D look perfectly normal at first glance. Lincoln's portrait is crisp, the words, "In God We Trust," clear, the mint mark, D, neatly punched below the date. But look closer. On the ultra-rare variety, you'll see something astonishing, a faint doubling on the date itself. The 6 seems thicker, the 0 slightly shadowed, and the D looks like it was struck twice, almost dancing on the surface of the coin. That's not damage. That's a minting blunder, and it's what separates a 1-cent piece from a coin worth over $1 million. When this error was first discovered in the 1960s, few people believed it was real. Dealers thought it was a trick of the light. But once authenticated, the race was on. Collectors across America began tearing through rolls of 1960 D pennies, hunting for that tiny overlap of digits. For every 1,000 coins, maybe one had even the slightest trace. The rest? Just ordinary pocket change. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In a high-profile auction, one pristine example of the 1960 D small over large date penny, in near-perfect condition, sold for more than $1.5 million. 1 cent, transformed into a life-changing payday. And ever since, this coin has become a legend whispered among collectors, the kind of find that keeps treasure hunters searching through their spare change late into the night. And here's where the story gets even more fascinating. Some experts believe there are still a few of these coins out there, hiding in old penny rolls, tucked in forgotten coffee cans, or buried in dusty dresser drawers. Because in 1960, millions of pennies went into circulation without anyone realizing the mistake had been made. It wasn't until years later that sharp-eyed collectors began spotting the doubled D and mismatched date sizes. But there's a twist most people don't know. There are also countless fakes. Yes, some people have tried to recreate the error by altering the date or mint mark on ordinary coins. So, how do you spot the real deal? First, look at the date under magnification. On genuine 1960 D small over large date pennies, the 6 will have a noticeable curve at the top, almost like it's melting into the coin. The 0 may appear slightly oval or doubled. And most importantly, the D mint mark will show a ghost-like shadow beneath it, a clear sign of a repunched mint mark from the Denver Mint itself. This isn't something that can be faked easily. The doubling is part of the coin's metal structure, not added later. Collectors were shocked when professional grading services confirmed just how few of these coins exist in top condition. Some estimates suggest fewer than 50 remain in gem-uncirculated grades, and those are the ones commanding 6- and 7-figure prices. Dealers have been known to pay tens of thousands of dollars for even a lightly circulated example, hoping it might grade high enough to become a millionaire's coin. Think about that for a second. 1 penny, made by mistake, worth more than a brand new sports car, or even a house. And yet, most people have no idea. Every day, 1960 D pennies pass through hands, pockets, and cash registers, their true value overlooked. But here's the part that gets every collector's heart racing. The 1960 D small over large date error isn't the only variety from that year. There are both small date and large date, normal versions, and unless you know exactly what to look for, it's easy to miss the rare one hiding among the common. The small date has a delicate, slightly higher 6 and 0, while the large date's numerals look bolder and sit lower on the coin's face. Combine that with the doubled mint mark, and you've got the golden ticket of pennies. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle because he took an extra second to look closely. That's all it takes, a moment of curiosity that could change your life forever. Dealers across the country are still searching. Coin forums buzz with rumors of new finds. Auction houses keep setting records. And every so often, another unsuspecting person checks a roll of old pennies and finds that faint doubling, the sign that they've struck copper gold. So the next time you're counting your change, take a second look at those old 1960 pennies. Check the date carefully. Look for the smaller, thinner numerals. Examine the mint mark for doubling. Because that tiny imperfection, that small minting error, could turn your ordinary penny into something extraordinary. Collectors are still stunned at how such a subtle mistake became one of the most valuable modern coins ever made. The 1960 small over large date penny is a reminder that even the smallest details can hold life-changing secrets.